Alright, so Trump continued to intimidate American allies in Europe by introducing new tariffs against those countries who openly say that they are backing up the independence of the Denmark Kingdom and that they are not okay with the idea of Donald Trump to conquer Greenland. Just yesterday, Donald Trump came out with a huge post saying that 10% of the tariffs will be introduced on main European economies starting from February. And later on in the summer, they will grow up to 25% and will stay there until those European countries are supporting Denmark. So it's the first time that Donald Trump really takes the real action over Greenland. He implements this bully strategy to intimidate allies directly. I'm gonna harm your economy if you do not obey, if you do not give your own territory to me. Yes, you're the part of the European Union, you're the part of NATO, but you should obey because we are this new empire. We want to expand our ruling because, you know, Greenland has some of the resources. Donald Trump, in case of Greenland, unlike with Venezuela, he doesn't say that his goal is to acquire those resources. He says that the idea is to increase the security of the United States because there is the threat from China and Russia. But those threats are not real for now. First of all, Russia is busy in Ukraine, and Greenland is far, far away from Russia, so even if Russia wanted, this supply connection is too long for Russia to sustain some sort of the military activity in that island. Yes, they may threaten Baltic states, they may threaten maybe even Poland or Finland, and there is the chance for this kind of the escalation. But Donald Trump is calm about it. So why Donald Trump is not supporting European allies and security of the continent where there is definitely a threat? About China, yes, China has some ambitions into the Arctics. They wanted to invest into some of the infrastructure of Greenland, but were cancelled because of Denmark. Denmark is the part of the European Union and they cannot be like close friends with China. Even though there is deepened cooperation nowadays between the European Union and China, it's understandable because even Canadian Prime Minister calls China as the more reliable partner compared to the United States of America nowadays. And China also has its own influence and interest, not in Greenland for now, but in Indo-Pacific region. They're building those islands, artificial ones. They're intimidating Taiwan with military exercises, and politically they also have some of the argument with Japan. Yes, they want to access Arctics, but they want to use the soft power. Soft power is what America refused to implement under Donald Trump's administration by exiting lots of the organizations and USAID. I mean exiting participation in international organizations and also own international companies which were working for charity programs worldwide. It's the gold time for China nowadays. Because this stupid international affairs policy doesn't bring any sort of the profit for the United States. It's already vivid, even for Republicans. More than 65% of Republicans are not supporting the possible annexation of Greenland. And deploying of the European forces, yeah, they deployed few of the soldiers there, but still they showed that they are presented there in Greenland and that the NATO members are actually concerned about security of Greenland. Donald Trump before said that Europeans are not doing enough to protect Greenland, but then they deployed few of the forces. Donald Trump became outrageously angry about it. For example, today he stated that the fact that Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands and Finland have sent military personnel to Greenland is a very dangerous situation for the survival of our planet. Donald Trump. Which means that the security issue that Donald Trump proclaimed before is a pure hoax. His interest, well, there are many. First of all, to acquire resources of that island. The global warming is out there. There's the question whether it's caused by our human activity or not. Maybe it's the natural process. We'll keep that topic a little aside, but the fact is the fact. The ice melts in Greenland, in Arctics, in Antarctica. This is maybe natural process, maybe not, but it potentially may open the access for the new resources and rare earth minerals. In our modern world, the access to those rare earth minerals is very important. For now, China dominates the market. They have the most of the production, let's say, of the rare earth components, because they may also process those minerals, and also they may dig those from their ground. They have the access to the rare earths that the United States of America doesn't have. By the way, Russia has those, Ukraine just few, but in Greenland there are many. Well, still they need China capabilities to process everything of that, but in the future maybe America will be also at the step to process everything of that and to use those components, minerals in also military production, because American military is really dependent nowadays on China. And China recently applied the restrictions on some of the rare earth minerals for the Western companies, most of all the United States companies. It was happening because of the tariff war between two of the countries, USA and China. The trade dropped down, but as I mentioned in my previous video, basically China changed the markets and they sell more to Asian countries and Europeans. There is the growth. One more reason why Donald Trump wants to acquire Greenland is to show his mighty power. Maybe he thinks that this step is kind of popular based on his informational bubble, that Americans somehow might support that move. Well, some part of the society, of course, will support that because Donald Trump is like this cult leader, and whatever Donald Trump says, whatever he does, is accepted by MAGA community as to-go decision. We already see how the rhetoric of Donald Trump has changed since the election campaign. Then he stated, oh, there will be no any wars, I'm not gonna start anything of that. It was all organized by the deep state, but now he started lots of the military confrontations. He is using American military. He is threatening even allies. But for MAGA cult, it's all okay. They accepted this reality. Also, Epstein files, when DOJ basically violates the law, that this act to release the Epstein files that was voted by Congress, agreed by Senate and signed by Donald Trump himself. But where are those files? Nowhere. They do not exist, and that bullshit that they released, even sometimes with Trump's surname, it's not enough. It's basically less than 1% from all of those files, and I have the opinion that probably we'll never see those files, at least under the current White House administration, and maybe next administrations, maybe some time should pass, like 20 years or something, for those files to really appear. Or there could be some of the whistleblower guy who is involved in redacting those files who might leak some of the information. Or maybe Russia may leak that information, because Russia mentioned in Epstein emails that Putin has the pictures, that Donny blowed Buba or something like that. You might remember that one. And by the way, that's the reason number 3 why Donald Trump wants Greenland. He wants to distract the attention of the public from Epstein files, because there is something really terrible there. Something that could end Donald Trump's future perspectives, careers, and maybe even like any sort of the acceptance even by his own MAGA cult community. So now it is up to Europeans of how they react to this bully behavior of Donald Trump and the White House administration, because international law, it doesn't exist. So the international regulations, they are not even applied for this kind of the crisis. Well, I see the solidarity among European biggest economies, except let's say Italy, because Italy says, oh, there should be some sort of the conversation between Europe and Donald Trump. Maybe we do not understand Donald Trump properly, but Meloni is the ally of Donald Trump. Political ally, also the ideology ally. After all, she is a right politician, so MAGA likes Meloni, of course. But she is not the worst possible variant. I think Viktor Orban is way worse than Meloni. But the rest of the countries, including France, including United Kingdom, they're first of all surprised, shocked, and they're willing to act also on those possible tariffs that will be probably implemented on the Europeans, because there's still the window till the end of this month, because it looks like they will be implemented in February. And there is also the variant for Donald Trump to chicken out. Taco, Yes, sometimes it happens. Not always, but after 1 year of Donald Trump's presidency, we already understand how he works. He bullies someone, threatens with huge force or mighty tariffs, and then he either chickens out completely or he reduces the pressure dramatically. Then he sees that his demands, maximalist demands, they are not accepted by counterpart. So here Europe should understand that thing. I think Zelensky understood it very well before, even with this mineral deal. I remember how Donald Trump pushed Zelensky in Ukraine. You should sign this deal. You should give up your natural resources fully to us. And Ukrainian side said, no, we are not interested in this proposal. And after 1 month or so, there was a new mineral deal made by a joint group of American and Ukrainian experts, and that one was really profitable for Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine signed it, and the United States and Donald Trump showed, oh, we after all signed this deal, but it's completely different deal. And Zelensky did everything correct back then, saying that we're not gonna sign the terrible deal, only good one, which is profitable for both of the sides. And it was a right step. The same goes with those peace negotiations. Then Donald Trump pushes Ukraine, sometimes he pushes Russia, but kind of rarely, mostly Ukraine. Ukraine clearly marks the red lines. We're not going to give up Donbass, for example, and Ukraine stands on those red lines, even in conversation with this economy and military superpower as the United States of America, and personally with Donald Trump. And in this case, Donald Trump simply doesn't have the leverage of how to act on Ukraine, how to bully that country. By the way, by the time I'm recording this video, a communication and negotiation group went to the United States of America from Ukraine. Budanov is a new participant because he is now a director of the President's office, the head of the President's office of Ukraine, newly appointed, and now he has lots of the power, way more than before, than he was the head of the Ukrainian intelligence. So what am I saying here? That for Europeans it also should be a role model of how to communicate with Donald Trump, that even those tariffs, if they're implemented, it's better to accept those, to counteract on those with their own tariffs, and after a while Donald Trump will chicken out. That's what China did, by the way. Donald Trump applied crazy tariffs, China applied crazy tariffs, and that tariff battle continued to the crazy nonsense point until officials of the White House stated that it's better to drop those down, to negotiate, after all, to cancel the most of the tariffs, because it is also harmful for American economy. So with Europe it's absolutely the same, 10%, 25, 500, doesn't matter. If they implement those, it doesn't mean that they will continue to keep those, because it harms American economy as well. America really depends on Europe. American production industry, drug production, and European officials, they already stated that the previous agreement that was not yet fully ratified about those tariffs between America and Europe, it could be cancelled if Donald Trump would just continue to intimidate his allies, partners, and friends with whom they fought in the Second World War and who actually took part in a common mission in Afghanistan after 9/11. By the way, Denmark, during that mission, that was an Article 5 implementation of NATO, Denmark lost the most of the soldiers relative to the Denmark population. And now it's been threatened and intimidated by USA. And of course, people in Denmark, in Greenland, they do not understand that. And they went on protests yesterday, the day before yesterday. You know, it reminded me the protests in Ukraine. Then Kherson city was taken by Russians, it was occupied. People went on the streets, people went on the main square with the Ukrainian flags, shouting that Kherson is Ukraine, definitely showing the aggressor country that it's the Ukrainian territory. You should get out from here. The same attitude I see from Greenlanders, and it's someone's land. You cannot take just the land of the people who do not like your presence there. If Donald Trump behaves like that, there is no difference between America and Russia in this case, ideologically, but maybe actions are different. After all, people of the United States, I don't think that you are barbarians, especially those Americans who watch my channel. I think you are great, my friends. But with Donald Trump, the United States of America turned the really wrong way. This is the dark trail. The world order that was built on the international law that was implemented after the Second World War does not exist. Now, who has the power may intimidate anyone, attack, capture, kidnap, and so on. Yeah, Putin was the first one to start everything of that, but you see, Donald Trump likes that idea, he admires those actions, and he wants to do the same. Also against those countries as Russia, because Trump is capturing tankers that were registered in Russian Federation. For Europe and for Ukraine, of course, the situation is not good, because the ideology of the European states, most of them, it is based on the international law. And I personally think that Europeans, they understand the importance of the international law more, because Europe suffered a lot during the Second World War and after it. Of course, here people, they understand the threats that those neo-imperialism regimes might bring, as Russian ones or maybe even the United States of America under Donald Trump. America is fantastic, but Donald Trump is ruining everything. The trust that was built, the international relations between allies, and who is profiting from everything of that? Russia and China. China increases the economic cooperation with Europe, and for Russia the weakening of the NATO alliance is very, very profitable. Maybe Ukraine may obtain less help, because even the Puro program could be under the question if there is the tension between United States and Europe. Also, let's be honest, who would say that the United States would really protect Europe? In their national security doctrine, they say that Europe is on itself. And now, do you really think that the United States will follow the Article 5 or maybe condemn the possible special military operation, quite restricted, of Russia, maybe in Suwalki corridor? Of course not. They will maybe help in a best case scenario with some of the military equipment if Donald Trump is really in a good mood, but I wouldn't count on that either. Europe should absolutely reform itself. It should build its own army. That's the only possible variant, because this alliance could be cracked by those big superpowers as Russia and United States of America. Russia is still a superpower because it has nukes, only because of that. Its economy is very low. It's comparable to Italian or even worse. And we know the perspective of the Russian economy. But still they have the most of the nuclear warheads. They have missiles to deliver that quite effectively. That's why Russia plays this great role in the world security, let's say. That's why Europeans, they are afraid, oh, it's better not to escalate, or it's better not to deploy our armies to Ukraine, and so on. Without nukes, Russia would have been gone a long time ago. That is the only thing that holds Russia. Yeah, some people say that some of those nuclear weapons, they will not work in Russia because they're not maintained. But Russia has so many warheads, so many missiles, that I wouldn't count on that. Also, the Soviet-made weapons, those are quite reliable, especially missiles. They were built by Ukrainian designers, Ukrainian developers. Korolev, who launched Gagarin to space, it was his missile, and based on that technology, Russia produced lots of the nuclear missiles, intercontinental missiles, and also middle-range IRBMs like Oreshnik. It's not fancy as Putin says, it's not new, but it may deliver nuclear warhead. That's why Russia is the superpower, still. As for Ukraine, this situation around Greenland is also the answer for the NATO membership. Maybe after all, it's not the answer, because Denmark and Greenland, they're also NATO members, potentially under the threat of the other NATO member countries. So what's the point now of joining NATO in this case, if no security guarantees are provided against adversaries like Russia and China, at least no robust guarantees, for example, from the United States, and also you might be threatened by the United States. So what's the use? Maybe NATO should join Ukraine in this case, and we're gonna come out with some of the common army, Ukrainian European one, EU plus Ukraine. Maybe that's the answer, because Ukraine has all of those drone technologies, European Union has industrial capabilities and advanced technologies in different sectors. So the common solution could be very, very effective. Plus, Ukraine has advanced, experienced armed forces. First of all, ground forces. No European army has this actual battle experience the battle of 21st century, modern day war. Our specialists are sometimes flying to even Denmark to teach locals how to use the drone interceptors, but it's not the full scale as it should be. So Europe, you should absolutely wake up and protect your territory, develop own army. Without it, you'll be cracked and smashed absolutely. There will be again confrontation, maybe many local ones or one big war. Yeah, sorry guys that I speak about not so good news, I understand it, but we have what we have. We live in this changing world, and the changes, sometimes they're not good. Sometimes good, sometimes not. But I still believe that good always prevails over bad. And in a long-term perspective, all of those Donald Trump's agenda will just disappear, and we're gonna live in more stable world. But now it's the time for changes. New world order is coming, and of course we'll see how it goes. From the positive things that this year started from the possible regime change, the start of the regime change in Iran, and kidnapping of Maduro, which is, after all, NATO is a good thing overall. I hope Venezuelan regime itself will be also changed for a democratic one. But Donald Trump, it seems like he doesn't want to change it. After all, he wants to have the access for oil. That's what he proclaimed openly. Plus, the situation in Russia is getting worse day by day. They bogged down in Ukraine, their economy is going down, and they simply also cannot sustain this war for extensive period of time, even though Putin keeps those ambitions to reach so-called goals of the special military operation, but he is not successful with those. And guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel on Patreon, on membership if you watch me on YouTube. My videos are also available on Spotify. The link for my Spotify is in the video description below. There's also a video information, like on YouTube, not just audio. I was surprised by it, by the way. I thought it's the place for podcasts or music only, but no, you can publish and watch the videos in 4K. I'm recording now in 4K. So follow me there as well. And as usual, to propel the video in algorithms, just press your like to this video and subscribe for the channel. It is also very important. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.